The PlayStation 5 may still be very early in its life cycle, but there are already a few fantastic games with brilliant stories on the system, ranging from third-person shooters to RPGs. There is something for everyone, especially those looking for a game with a brilliant story to get hooked on. Not everyone looks for a strong narrative in their games, but for those who do, it can be difficult to find something that sticks. The following games all provide you with a great story. Here are some of the best PlayStation 5 games with great storylines.
Warning. This is gonna be weirder than usual.
Control is a great game if you're a fan of a story with mystery and science fiction elements. It takes place in New York, with you playing a character called Jesse, who is tasked with taking care of a mysterious extraterrestrial threat called the Hiss. It's similar in style to the BioShock series, taking a variety of elements seen in those games, but it also introduces an amazing physics system which makes it one of the most satisfying gaming experiences in recent years. The storytelling is a real highlight though, and if you don't get lost in its many layers, it has one of the strongest narratives on the PS5. The characters are great too, especially Jessie and her surrounding cast, and it does a lot to cement the charm that oozes out of every part of this unusual game.
We're stronger.
Let's start a brand new age of heroes! Well, this just got complicated.
Yakuza Like a Dragon was one of the best RPGs of 2020, and the PlayStation 5 version is a fantastic experience for fans of the series and newcomers alike. Set in the underworld of Japan, one minute you'll be bashing the heads of enemy goons, and the next you'll be relaxing at the arcades or even singing a little bit of karaoke. It's a weird game, don't get me wrong, but in an era littered with bland grey adventure games starring middle-aged white guys, Yakuza Like a Dragon stands out amongst the crowd. Its characters are fantastic, with Ichiban being arguably the best protagonist the series has ever seen, and if you've never checked this game out, you owe it to yourself to try out Like a Dragon, especially if you've never played a Yakuza game before.
Let's get nutty!
The Last of Us Part 2 isn't technically a PS5 game, I know that, but after receiving a PlayStation 5 upgrade, it looks, and more importantly plays, as well as any native game on the system. It truly is a next generation experience, even if it was a PS4 game. It takes place just 5 years after the first game, presenting a new story featuring Ellie, but it moves the narrative in a completely unique direction, creating some incredibly emotional moments, both good and some bad. It might not quite top the first game, but it is a worthy successor in every way. The combat is certainly more refined, and the characterization of the various new people you meet on this journey is leaps and bounds above that seen in the original game. It remains a must-play game, not just for its story, but for everything that surrounds it. It was the swan song the PS4 deserved, and plays incredibly well on PlayStation 5.
I don't know. Feels like the end.
Marvel's Spider-Man received a remaster alongside the release of Miles Morales last year, and it's every bit as good on PlayStation 5 as it was when it originally launched back in 2018. It has one of the best versions of Peter Parker across any form of media, and has a great story full of twists and turns as you swing and web your way to the game's ending. It also has one of the best traversal systems in any game, well, ever. How often does a game have such an amazing way of movement that you actively avoid the fast travel system included? Insomniac Games lets you loose in a fantastically well made New York City, complete with famous landmarks such as the Empire State Building and even Central Park, and the PlayStation 5 version is equipped with instant load times and makes great use of the next generation DualSense controller. Its story may be a little bit cheesy at times, but it is a comic book game, so would you really expect anything else? Villains such as Electro, Vulture and Rhino star in a sinister six cast full of personality, and Peter's surrounding team including Aunt May and MJ are brilliantly portrayed.
So that thing, that's a whisper too, huh?
Looks a lot more
A
like...
reimagining of one of the greatest RPGs of all time, the Final Fantasy VII Remake makes great use of the additional power offered by the PS5, with performance and graphics based modes, alongside quicker loading times and the DualSense features of course. This chapter covers the original story all the way up to the escape from Midgard, but includes a lot of extra content and story not seen in the original. It does a great job at expanding characters we all know and love from the original game. It's the best action RPG available on the PS5, and the exclusive DLC episode is as high of a quality as the base game itself. If you're looking for a story to get lost in, I cannot recommend enough the Final Fantasy VII Remake. There's a very good reason it is still spoken about to this day as one of gaming's greatest adventures.
Cloud, lend me your strength.
Disco Elysium offers you an unprecedented level of choice in how you play it. It really is a role-playing game, with every single action or decision you make having a major impact on how the rest of the game plays out. You play as a detective tasked with solving a murder, but all of this is going on whilst you're trying to put together your own fractured memory. And it takes place in a world torn apart by a war decades before, which has left things in a what can only be described as a fairly terrible state. Surprisingly, for an RPG, Disco Elysium has no combat, instead focusing on decision making and making you respond appropriately to events that take place within the world. There's a lot of reading, don't get me wrong, but the final cut includes a brilliantly performed narrator for every bit of dialogue too. Disco Elysium has one of the best stories in modern gaming, and is a refreshing addition to the PS5 lineup, and definitely a game you should not be missing out on.
Yes, I'm going to unplug the microphone, okay?
Hades is a tough roguelite, and one of the best the genre has ever seen. It has a surprisingly deep narrative too, something which is rarely seen in this genre, with layers and layers of stories to untangle, as well as the relationships between the game's numerous characters. The visual style is fantastic as well, and each of the underworld locales have a unique and rich environment for you to explore. There's even a small section between each world where you can simply sit back and take in the view. On top of the near limitless levels of content to find and unlock, it will take you 10 complete runs if you intend to find the real ending of this game. It isn't a small game by any means, because you will die a lot. The focus on Greek mythology is brilliantly done too, with characters such as Hades, Zagreus and Aphrodite all being brought to life in this fantastic take on one of the most trending genres in gaming.
Or I can send you home the painful way. What'll it be?
I'll have to go with the painful way.
Hugo.
I want her to come back.
I'll carry you.
Mommy is dead, Hugo. You'll never see her again. Go away!
A Plague Tale Innocence is an emotive dive into the relationship between a brother and sister, and it has some fantastic writing and thrilling gameplay that will keep you on the edge of your seat for the entirety of your time spent with it. You spend your time avoiding the Inquisition, as well as the horde of rats that follows your every step, and you'll be doing all of this while searching for a cure for Hugo, your brother, who has been ill since birth with a mysterious disease. The game's focus on stealth gameplay and player awareness makes it a great proposition if you're looking for a slower experience, with the power balance between you and the antagonists of the game being heavily weighted against you. A Plague Tale Innocence is a great game, just make sure you have some tissues beside you whilst you play it. Well, there you go, there are 8 fantastic games there for you to look into. I recommend all of these, they're all fantastic games, and they all have very interesting and, to be honest, unique stories from one another. They're all from different genres too, so I'd highly recommend taking a look at games, in particular from genres you're interested in, and let me know if you have any suggestions below about other games that you'd recommend people play if they're looking for something with a great story. As always, thank you for watching this video, be sure to subscribe for more recommendations and other styles of content, and I'll see you next time. Peace.